participants, which is great. So I will call this meeting to order. This is our first general membership meeting of the CCES PTA. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Emily Helms-Williams. I am the PTA president for this school year. I'm really excited to have you all join, and we're all looking forward to hearing from Ms. Moreland. Before we get to that point, we do have some PTA business that we have to cover. Hopefully it won't be too long, and we can spend most of the meeting talking about the Leader in Me program. Just a few housekeeping notes. You should have all gotten a notice that this meeting is being recorded. Part of what we are trying to do this year is, one of our many initiatives is to try to find ways that we can be accessible to all families, and including families who don't speak English as a first language. So we're going to try to figure out a way to record a meeting and post it with captions. So we did want to make sure everyone knew that this was being recorded. Second housekeeping note is to please keep your lines muted. Just for, so everyone can hear. There will be time for Q&A, and please feel free to put anything into the chat or raise your hand at any time that you want to chime in the meeting. We do have Zoom moderator who will mute folks and can mute folks as needed. But if you get muted by the host, you'll need to figure out how to unmute yourself. I don't know how easy that is, but hopefully we'll just all be able to keep our lines muted. Yeah, Barbara?
Ever since I was muted as a test and I've gotten back on, I don't have the Zoom, I don't have the meeting up. Right now I'm looking at something that says introducing Zoom apps. I can't get it back. So I'm gonna exit and come back in maybe?
Okay.
All right. Oh wait, that didn't even exit me. Okay, this is strange.
So while Barbara's doing that, I will just really briefly preview what our agenda is going to be. Like I said, we're going to go through our PTA business first. You'll just have some basic announcements, and then two pieces of actual business for the PTA that we will need to vote on. Are the budget and the priorities. Barbara, are you still not able to join?
I'm able to see my stuff, but I'm not. What are you showing on the screen right now?
I'm showing the agenda.
Yeah, I don't. It's so strange. All right, I'll try to get back out, but I'm. Huh. What happened? All right, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You never went away. I didn't see you drop off.
I've got the agenda as well. I don't know if it's a Barbara problem or a link, but I've got the agenda.
All right, I'm going to click back in and see if it just brings me to the front. Open. So I can't seem to get off.
Did you by chance stop your video when you unmuted yourself?
I didn't think so, because I can still see me. You can still see me.
Yeah, I can still see you.
And I'm still in, and there's just no way, there's not even a way for me to get out.
Sorry, we should have practiced this.
By the end of the year, we will get all these meeting logistics totally nailed down.
Am I still host or co-host?
Yeah, you're still a co-host.
So let me just try a quick, no, because I have no button to hit share or anything. This is so strange. All right. Not sure what happened here. Go ahead and do what you need to do, and I will try to get out and back in.
Okay, I will go ahead with the announcements. We can change around the order of the policy priorities in the budget if we need to. And I can also, as long as you can hear us, I can walk us through the budget part as needed as well. So just our general PTA announcements. If you guys haven't, I know we keep sending this out, but just want to make sure people don't lose it on their to-do list is please join the PTA. We are hoping to have a large percentage of parents actually be members, because we do rely on the membership dues and donations to fund our budget that we'll talk through more tonight. I'm displaying the link here on the screen, and every week in our newsletter, Meredith includes information about how to join the PTA. So just a reminder to please do that if you haven't already. Also, please make sure to join the listserv. This is really the way that we communicate with everyone. We do have the school send out messages through Synergy sometimes, and that goes to everybody. But for most things that, might not, we don't want to be asking the school to be doing that all the time. So we do put out messages on the listserv. It's an easy way for parents to communicate with each other. We also have just started a CCES parent Facebook page. So that's another way that you can connect. And I have some information here on the screen about reaching out to Jill if you are not yet on the listserv and you want to join. Just a few upcoming events. And one is important. I want to make sure everyone got the news that we have been planning since the beginning of the year to have walk to school and bike to school day tomorrow. There is rain in the forecast as of now. I mean, who knows what will happen, but given all the planning that has to happen for walk and bike to school day, we have decided to just go ahead and move that to Thursday. Of course, any day, everyone is, we encourage everyone to walk and bike to school that's able, but we won't have like the fruit table and the big event that we are now planning for Thursday. I also wanted to mention and wanted to pass on behalf of Jody, please talk with your kids, the folks who do walk and bike to school, make sure that they're being really mindful of safety. We've had but at least an unsettling number of close calls, especially around Hillcrest in the morning, the afternoon. And it's really something that we don't even want to get close to a child being injured. So please, everyone, just be mindful of being careful around the school and talk with your kids about that. Other upcoming events on October 14th, this is a tentative date. We are trying to make plans. Hester and Julie and others are busy working on plans to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. We're planning on doing some Zooms for each grade level, and we'll be looking for some parent volunteers to help with that. So if you're interested, please reach out to Hester. We also have just recently changed the date for the Fall Festival. Up till a couple of days ago, or maybe just yesterday, we had it on the calendar for the 23rd. We've now moved that to the 24th to be able to get the vendors that we wanted there. And also our bylaws ask that we tell the general membership when the meetings are going to be at our first meeting of the year. So our plan for right now is that in addition to this general membership meeting in October, we will have meetings in February and June. And of course, the school will have parent meetings as needed throughout the year. So those are my announcements. Our first item of business is the budget, but I will pause before I turn to that and ask Barbara if you are able to walk us through that. You're muted.
Sorry. Okay.
No problem.
Now,
Oh, I need to stop sharing, I think.
okay. And then. Okay, can you all see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I will be brief, just not only because I know most of us are here really to hear Lorenz talk on the Leader in Me program, and we're all excited about that, but I'll be brief because also there's a really big game going on tonight in Boston, and I'm from the Boston area, and I want to get to the second half of that anyway. So if any of you are baseball fans, you know what I'm talking about, the big one. So I will try to be brief, but here is the budget. And I'll just start out talking a little bit about some of the numbers. Feel free to ask questions if you have questions as they come up. But the first thing I just wanted to point out is, or tell you a little bit of what our goals were with this budget. And that is the first thing was to leave next year's PTA a little bit of a cushion so that when they start the year, they have some money to go. So while we will spend all of the money we earn this year, on the kids this year, we started out with a cushion, and it's important to start the next group out with a cushion. So you'll notice that if we stay on balance, the projected bank balance at the end of the year will be 17,000, a little over 17,000, and we started it with 22,000. So
Barbara, there's a note in the chat. If you could please get a little closer to the microphone or speak up a little bit.
really, sorry about that. Am I closer or am I just not speaking loud enough? Maybe that's it. Oop. Can you hear me?
I can hear you okay.
Let me turn up. It's all the way up. Is the person who couldn't hear me, are they able to hear me now?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, great. Get rid of that. All right, great. So that was just telling you why we are leaving a cushion at the end of the year, basically because we started with one. It's important to have some money to start the year up. A lot of things happen at the front end where you need to make some deposits and things for early year events. So that's why we start out or end the year with a surplus as well. So going through some of the budget items. So overall, I would say our intention was to be somewhat conservative on what we thought we could do, somewhat conservative on our ability to raise money, given that we don't know if this year will be a normal year or not, and how many events we're going to be able to have in person versus how many fundraising events we're actually going to be able to have, and how the fundraising will go given all that's going on in the economy, et cetera. So take note that we're trying to be conservative on both ends, on our expenses and on our ability to raise funds. And in doing so, we're hoping we will do well on both of those fronts and still have some money in the budget to spend later. So we were conservative on both ends. You can sort of scroll. It's not letting me scroll down. Are you seeing it as I scroll down now? Okay, so you're only seeing what is showing there. So you can see some of the categories. I don't know if you need me to explain anything in certain categories, but if you do, please let me know. Instructional support is a fund that we put aside so that every teacher can apply for $200 during the course of the year to spend on supplies for their classroom. And teachers are already starting to submit those, which is terrific. Let's see. Staff teacher grants is something I wanted to mention. That is a category that, well, this year we had a very specific thing happen, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Normally, or last year and the couple of prior years, that budget item was $4,000. So that's one line item that we actually decided to increase. And the reason is because as a PTA, we heard from teachers and administrators and staff expressing how concerned they are about the learning loss of the past year and a half, and a very specific way to try to overcome that. And that was by purchasing a math program that is not something we would normally do because it's a large expense. And we decided to actually move forward with that. The whole PTA board discussed it in great length and decided that that was actually a very good use of our funds, given that our main goal is really to make sure all the kids are doing as well as they can, given the situation and circumstances that we all have. So that is a budget item that got increased this year. And let's see what other events. Something else I want to bring your attention to is where it says community outreach. So you know what falls into there. It's things like the book fair, but I've added this year what's called the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Any expenses related to that. We have a new PTA chair position, and that person, there's a chair called diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so there's going to be more programming, I believe, and more focus on that. So that any expenses that relate to that are going to fall into community outreach. So I wanted to let you know that we actually hope to do more with diversity, equity, and inclusion this coming year. What else is of particular interest? You'll notice after school clubs is a very large income for us, a revenue generator for us, which is terrific. So sign your kids up for the after school clubs. what else is particular interest? Cheetah Pride campaign is where PTA itself is trying to raise money. We get money through your memberships to the PTA. So a certain percentage of the money we raise goes to the national and Maryland PTAs. And after those dues are done, the rest will go to the Cheetah Pride campaign. So please try to give as generously as you can. We have a big goal there, 15,000 to raise that way. And then partnership fundraising, you'll probably get information as things come up on how to help with that. That's another very large item. We're dependent on the PTA Foundation for raising that money, and we should all support them when we see those programs come up. And that's really all I have for you. If let's
Yeah.
questions.
I'm on the Zoom PTA call.
And just a reminder to keep your lines muted. We have a question in the chat about buying car magnets. We have a whole lot of car magnets in the PTA closet. Those are part of our Spirit Rare sales, there was a line on here for that. Since we aren't having a lot of in-person events, there's not, we don't have anything planned right now until the fall festival. But if anybody wants to buy something like a car magnet, just please feel free to reach out to me, and we can sort out like somebody going into the closet and getting that. I think they're like $5. Any other questions about the budget? Thank you, Barbara, for presenting that. That was really great.
And if there are no questions, then Emily, do we want to take a vote, or should we wait a little longer for some questions?
Yeah, I don't hear any questions. I don't see any other. Oh, here's a question in the chat. Are these projected fundraising totals either for Cheetah Pride or partnership fundraising consistent with last year or more aligned with pre-COVID levels, which is a great question and something we've found a little challenging. But Barbara, I'll turn it over to you to talk
Sure. So that was actually what I meant by we're being somewhat conservative in our ability to raise money. So we didn't go quite as far back as 2019, which would have been the last normal year. So we did something between 2019 and 2021. We didn't, we assume we'll be able to raise a little bit more than the last year and a half, but probably not back to those levels. So we tried to balance and be conservative on both ends. Yeah. And that's true of most of the programs. We tried to kind of balance having a good program, but not maybe spending as much on some programs as we have in the past, either just to combat in case we can't raise as much money.
All right, I'll give it just another few seconds to see if anybody else has any questions or anything they want to put into the chat before we open the floor. Maybe before we turn to a vote. So I don't see any other hands raised or questions. So at this point, I will ask if anyone would like to make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
I can make that motion.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
And for what I'm going to ask folks to do is if you're in favor of accepting the budget, please go into the reactions item on and raise your hand to show that you're voting in support. Okay, so I see effectively 31 votes in favor. So I'll ask you to please lower your hand or whatever your reaction was. Still have 3 hands raised. I want to make sure we're accurate. So it's a majority vote, so it doesn't really matter. All those opposed to the budget as presented, please raise your hand. Okay, I see no new hands raised. So I am happy to announce that the budget has been accepted as presented, and we will move on to our next item of business. Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you, everyone. So our next item of business, and this is our last thing before we move on to Ms. Moreland's presentation, is we're going to have Cecily talk to us about MCC-PTA's policy priorities and how our PTA feeds up into that group.
Hey, thank you. And I think that I have just shared at least the top part of the draft of these proposed 2021 advocacy priorities. But I wanted to start by first saying I'm hoping not to take up too much of our time so that we can get to Ms. Moreland's presentation. But I wanted to first introduce you all to the idea of the MCC PTA because I did not know very much about it until relatively recently. It's the countywide organization of PTAs, and that includes our Chevy Chase Elementary School PTA and almost 200 other local school PTAs across the county. And the MCC PTA works to engage and empower families and communities to advocate for all the children in Montgomery County Public Schools. Each year to do that, it identifies a set of advocacy priorities that are going to guide its efforts for that year. So these are meant to be issues of common concern in the MCPS community, and MCC PTA leaders and committees are going to advocate on them with MCPS, the Board of Education, the County Council, and others. So right now, we're at a stage in this process where the MCC PTA Advocacy Committee has prepared a proposed set of priorities for this year. And then they've reached out to us, all of the member PTAs, to get feedback and comments on that. Later this month, right before the end of October, Rob Wilcox, who's the other MCC PTA delegate from Chevy Chase, he and I will join the rest of the PTA delegates to discuss and then ultimately vote on a revised version of these priorities. And hopefully they will reflect what we at Chevy Chase Elementary think is important for our community. The proposed priorities, which I can try to scroll through them, but hopefully not making people too dizzy, just to show they're about a page and a half, close to 2 pages long, I guess. And I did circulate them on Friday via the PTA listserv, and then there was a link to them in the weekly newsletter that went out on Sunday. So I hope that anyone who is interested in the substance of these has had a chance to take a look at them. I'll just, in case you're trying to read it on the screen, I'll scroll it down to show a little more every few moments as we go through. The draft priorities include 7 major categories that are listed in alphabetical order, so not order of importance. And those are communication, COVID-19 response and recovery, and that has kind of 3 subcategories in it: academics, facilities and transportation, and then policy. Then there's curriculum, diversity, equity, inclusion, which matches up with, as Barbara was saying, we've got a new position for those issues in our PTA. Then there's health, wellness, and school climate. Here, I'll scroll a little further down this way. Health, wellness, and school climate. There's an ombudsman category, and then the last one is transportation and facilities. So last night, the CCES PTA board met and discussed the draft priorities. And the board agreed that it supports these 7 high-level policy categories. And then we proposed 2 substantive comments that we would like to make to the MCC PTA, in addition to supporting what is in this document already. Again, continuing to try to scroll down for those of you who are reading quickly on the screen. One of those 2 comments is that we want to make sure there's language that's going to allow advocacy for more equitable support that's going to reach the whole MCPS community, including families who have limited English skills, because what some of us have found, even fluent in English, is that sometimes the way MCPS does business, it's not that easy to maneuver, and MCPS is not really functioning in an as inclusive a way as we think it should be, not just for students, but also for our families who are trying to support our students. So we think that that is covered in the language here, both in this diversity and equity and inclusion point, and then in the communication and transparency one. And actually, I think I'm showing you the wrong version. Sorry, I was showing you one that had marked it first. But forgive me that technical flaw. We've been playing around with some line editing things that we wanted to offer to the MCC-PTA, not really on substance, but more on more in terms of improving clarity and just editing. And so what I was showing you was some of the contributions that we've gotten for that. So I apologize, I'm gonna scroll now through the version the MCC-PTA sent us. But anyhow, this first communication bullet does talk about promoting clear, simple, accurate, timely communication to our diverse population in multiple languages, and trying to eliminate inequities that speakers of other languages experience in participating in their students' education. But our board was thinking that we'd like to make sure we highlight that to the MCC-PTA as something that is important to us, that we want to make sure stays in this draft. The other substantive point, I'm scrolling down, hopefully to show the ombudsman one. As you may see on the screen, it is significantly shorter than all of the others, and the board was not really that clear on what exactly it's talking about. So we wanted to ask the MCC-PTA to add a little bit more content to flesh it out, so that we understand a little more what they're talking about in this designating an impartial ombudsman to guide families navigating through the system. So I'm talking about this tonight and sort of presenting this tonight because we would like to now ask you, the members of our PTA, if you support us in making these comments and expressing our support for this overall draft to the MCC-PTA, and then also to see if there are any other substantive comments, like things that people think are missing from this or should be changed, so that we can decide as a group tonight if we would like to make those requests. And the MCC-PTA has been very clear in the messages that they're sending to me that they want anything we send to them to reflect a vote of our membership. And so I apologize that it's very difficult to read this and that I was putting the wrong version up on the screen. I'm going to focus on the COVID response and recovery part if people are trying to read that. But hopefully, as I said, hopefully people had a chance to take a look at this with the proper version in advance of the meeting. And I guess I'll pause talking right now to see if there are any substantive things that people would like to see changed or added to this. And if not, then I would, the next thing I would do would be just to make a motion for us to support these proposed advocacy priorities, plus including those two comments that I mentioned, and then see if we could take a vote. So I guess if anyone has sort of questions or thoughts about this right now, if you want to try to raise your hand or put those in the chat, which I'm probably not going to be able to see while I'm sharing the screen. This is one of the problems with screen sharing. But I'll let Emily perhaps tell me.
The screen looks great to me. I will just say, I know if folks didn't have a chance to read this ahead of time, and it sounds like maybe on some people's screens it looks too small, or you are having a hard time reading it. You can give us more comments later. We will, as a membership, have an opportunity to vote on any comments that come up after this meeting, but we're happy to still send them on. I think, Cecily, we can at least bring them back to the board and consider, even if they're not like formally voted in.
And I'll just sort of confess that since I'm in the same role for Silver Creek Middle School, they don't have a general meeting this month. And so we're just going to be reaching out to ask people to send things and have having the board then consider what to pass on. So we're doing our best to do this by the book here, but if people have comments reading it afterwards, I think that sending them to me or to Emily that our board can consider. I don't think it would be that they would reject something that that we bring up even after this meeting. And I did just manage to see the chat that there's a question, how long are these intended to exist? And it is an annual thing. So they're generally, I guess, generated by an advocacy committee over the summer, shared in September with the delegates assembly, which is what they call those of us representing all the different school PTAs. And then we'll have the discussion end of October, and then it'll go through until the next academic year and start again in September. I think this is a more concise version of the advocacy priorities than I have seen in the past, but they've really put a lot of content into a very short amount of space, and it does take a little while to process it. I think the idea, as I think of it, is that it's meant to be somewhat broad so that it can encompass a range of advocacy that the different committees and the MCC PTA leadership will engage in. So it may not be as like super duper specific, but also not so broad that it's completely meaningless.
Great.
Any other questions or discussion before we move on with Cecily's motion?
Leslie, I just want to thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. A lot of what you have in there is in progress or have begun at the school, but it was nice to see that a lot of the things are in alignment. So thank you for going over that.
Thank you, Jody. And what I have discovered in my time working with representatives from other PTAs is that there are many ways that we are ahead of where a lot of other schools are, unfortunately. So that I'm glad that we're making progress on these, and unfortunately there's more advocacy needed for some of the other schools to get to where we at Chevy Chase Elementary are on some of these issues.
I agree. And I think that might be a discussion for us at maybe the next board meeting of how we can spread our advocacy within the other communities, maybe starting in our cluster or our region. So I agree with you there that I think we know how to advocate, but what can we do to show what that looks like, sounds like, feels like?
Jody, any other comments or discussion on the advocacy priorities?
Okay, shall I make that motion again, Emily?
Yes, please.
So I make a motion that the PTA express our support for these 7 major categories that are in this draft of proposed advocacy priorities, and that we also pass on 2 additional comments to the MCC PTA, along with any line editing help that they would like to accept from us. Those comments being about making sure there is more equitable support for people with different length, more inclusive, I said it much better before, I apologize, to make sure that there's more equitable support for the whole MCPS community, and that MCPS is as inclusive as it can be on that. And can they please explain the ombudsman category a little bit more to us? So that's a very lengthy motion.
I won't attempt to repeat that, but is there a second?
I'll second happily.
Great. I see Jody and I hear Hester. So as we did before, if you can go into the reactions, and if you are supportive of this motion, please raise your hand. Okay, so I see, give it another minute. I see about 25 out of 53 participants have reacted and raised.
And I also saw at least one like physically raised hand rather than icon raised hand, although maybe it's become an icon now. I think Mr. Gupta has his hand raised that.
I have a million icons on my screen except the hand. So
We'll
my
take
hand
any
is up.
icon.
Any
Under
positive,
reactions, which is weird, but
I think we have at least,
we have a majority.
yeah, I think we have
Yeah.
27 or 28 at least,
Okay.
which is a majority.
Yeah.
So thank you all for participating and listening through this discussion. And I will now mute myself so we can get to the main part of the show.
I'm sorry to be a stickler, but for Robert's Rules of Orders, do we have to see if anyone opposes?
Yes, I think
I'm
we
not
do.
sure, but I'm just taking notes and I want to get it right.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I don't see a downside. So if everyone could lower their hands who voted in support of the motion, and then we will open the floor. I still see six hands raised. Those are going down.
Emily, you should be able to take them down.
Okay,
I'm doing it.
great.
Okay.
Thank you, Meredith. Okay, so now if anyone opposes this motion, please raise your hand. Okay, so I will announce that the motion has passed by a large majority. And I think at this point, we can conclude PTA business and move on to the speaker portion of our PTA meeting. So I will now introduce Ms. Moreland. Ms. Moreland has been part of the Chevy Chase Elementary School community since 2020. Before that, she was a school counselor in Miami, Florida for 15 years. She has her bachelor's degree from Washington University in St. Louis and a master's in education from Harvard. She speaks French and Spanish, and she's married and has 2 children. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Moreland.
Thank you so much, Emily. And thank you everyone for having me again. I'm so honored to be asked to, I know your time is very valuable, so I feel really honored to be, to have you as my audience and to be able to share. And hopefully this is a fun presentation. That's my goal. I'm so excited that the district has purchased this Leader in Me curriculum because SEL is obviously so important to me. And I think we all agree that this is an important time when social emotional learning is has become a top priority. And there are so many curricula out there, and this one was really vetted. And I'm just happy to be learning more about it, and I'm happy to share what I know. So I will preface this by saying that I'm not the expert in learning Leader in Me. I am learning about it. We just got this in the summer, and just like the teachers and the staff, we are all learning and developing it. And it is not just a it's not just a textbook and a workbook. There's really so much more that goes into it. So I hope that you enjoy this portion and can see how parents are a big part of this. So without further ado, I will go ahead and share my screen. Oh, first in the chat, I'm going to put there is a participant guide, so you can kind of just have that as a resource and follow along. It does make reference to some of some of what I will go over. And also there were 2 Parent Academy trainings that I know we posted in the newsletter, Meredith's newsletter. And I hope that some of you were able to go to those. I actually saw Barbara at one of them. I attended on the 22nd of September, and it was really nice to see a familiar name and face. And I'm just excited to learn more about it. And I'm really glad you're here to learn more about it as well. So let me go ahead and forgive me in advance for technological, I am not the greatest with Zoom. I am going to try my very best though.
While you're pulling that up, I forgot to mention earlier, but if anyone has any questions for Ms. Moreland, please feel free to put them into the chat, and Raj and I and others will try to help make sure that all your questions get answered.
Perfect. Thank you. I did have a note about that. Yes, and we'll have questions at the end, but that will be very helpful. And Raj types really quickly. So he will get an answer to you, or we'll be sure and answer it at the end, or I'll tell you I have to get back to you because I am not the expert yet. Working on it, and hopefully we can get everything answered in one way or another. So I hope that on your screen it says family overview welcome. Is that what you're seeing? Okay, awesome. Good. All right. So again, my name is Mrs. Loren Moreland, and I'm with parents. I can say my first name, and it's just a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to do my best to teach you a little bit about Leader in Me. And like I said, it's a journey. This is our first, part of it, our first year. And we are actually one of the piloted cohorts. The BCC cluster is piloting this. So not all schools have it this year, but it will become part of all schools in Montgomery County Public Schools. So Leader in Me is based on the work of Stephen R. Covey. He was the author of the bestseller, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I'm going to provide today an overview on how schools around the world have been applying this work. Families are an important part of the Leader in Me process. Dr. Covey said family is the most important organization in the world. I would have to agree, being working in schools and also having a family of my own. The agenda for today, for this part of the presentation, is to provide an overview of what Leader in Me is about, including how it got started. I will also explore some of its fundamental assumptions or paradigms and a brief overview of the 7 habits. As Emily said, if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat as I go through, or save them till the end. Either way is fine. So here, when I have a video to show, these videos are really fun. I actually have to stop sharing, go to a different link. Let's see if this works. And this first video is really fun because the kids are introducing what Leader in Me is. So it is new to us. Here we go. In MCPS, but it is not new across the country. This has been, if you Google it, this has been programming in districts for years. So it'll tell you a little bit about how it got started in North Carolina and what some of the schools have done, because they've had it for many, many years, and the growth they've made. Can you hear it?
Hi, my name is Walter. I'm a leader at A.B. College Elementary in Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome to a school where everyone is empowered to be a leader. You may pass by school and think you're just an ordinary school, but the moment you come inside, there's a whole new feeling.
We are a magnet school, and in 1999, we weren't attracting very many students. We had at that time around 350. And our superintendent said that we needed to reinvent ourselves. We went to our key stakeholders, our business leaders, parents, community leaders, and we said, what is it that you want for this community?
Our stakeholders, when creating this school, talked about having children and grandchildren that were A students mastering the SAT, and then were not successful in college because they didn't know how to work with students. They didn't know how to prioritize. They were only about the academics.
I knew at that moment that schools had to do things differently. That when we're only focused on the academic piece, and absolutely that is important, but there's so much more than that. Over the past 14 years, we have been very focused on 3 main areas: leadership, culture, and academics. And you almost have to work on all three of those at the same time.
The theme of our school is leadership. Our mission is to develop leaders one child at a time. Our mission keeps us focused on what's most important.
When we developed this model, we thought of Dr. Covey's 7 habits.
Be proactive. Stop and think.
7 habits are absolutely essential to a student's success, not only here at Combs, but throughout the rest of their schooling in middle school, high school, college, but also in the working world. They learn to be creative problem solvers, and they learn how to be leaders out in the community.
The 7 habits are endless.
I can take any book off of my classroom library shelf and analyze and discuss the 7 habits with the students.
The 7 habits are not all we do to learn leadership skills.
One of the things they really have to stress in are kids to be leaders in the classroom, to do public speaking, to get up in front of their class and to speak. And so our son Walter, kind of have watched him practice speeches since he's been in kindergarten. He has gotten up and he has stood in front of 40, 50 adults and was able to make a speech.
Some of you may be wondering why I have a peer inside of an adult.
Every outstanding leader knows the social etiquette of greeting. And for different cultures, that's something different. But here the standard is to shake hands firmly and to have great eye contact.
I think it's amazing when you walk into Combs, it just feels different. Just the physical culture of this school, colorful, it's vibrant. Not only that, but the emotional culture of this school, we're supportive of each other.
As soon as you walk in, you feel welcome, you feel like you fit in.
I came to this school a couple of years ago, about 2. I felt more confident in doing things. I felt more confident in my schoolwork, and all the support here made my grades go up. At our school, you can be a leader in anything you want.
I am a leader in art. I'm a leader in music.
I'm a leader in helping others.
Some children may be leaders in sports. Some people may be leaders in literature. Some children may be leaders in science. But it's empowering the students to recognize their own individuality and giving them the option of sharing that growth with others.
Since we began the leadership theme, our discipline issues are down dramatically. So many times in the classroom, students handle disagreements on their own. And it's a wonderful thing to see.
It's a whole staff effort. We're collaborating, we're synergizing, we're working together for the better of all the students. It's not just my 21 students in my classroom, it's our students.
At the beginning of the year and at the beginning of each quarter, all the children set their personal goals and their academic goals. And we kind of talk about what would be a good goal for them. So they're not just pulling something out of the air, because I want it to be meaningful to them.
My personal goal is to get better at playing the piano. My academic goal is to do better in multiplication.
Part of our leadership notebook is really having students look at their data. And when they're looking at their data, they're able to see areas of academics and personal growth that they're excelling in, but then also areas that they may have some improvement that needs to be made.
And these are my scores that I've got on the quizzes.
I remember when I was in school, I had no idea my grades until I received my report card. But our students know where they're at in every area throughout the entire school year. What I really like about that is that it really gives the students ownership of their academic progress.
We are developing 21st century citizens. We're giving them a skill set, one that is based on leadership development that will take them through the rest of their lives. A child's worth should never be defined by a score on a piece of paper. There's so much more to a child than just that score. The goals of the 21st century learner are demanding that we look at children through a different lens, that we shift our paradigms, and that we start to teach in the world in which they now live, teaching them responsibility, teaching them ethics. We're not going to find that in a workbook. We're not going to find that in a textbook. We're going to find that in the day-to-day interactions that we have with children.
Awesome. So I hope that gave sort of a taste of what, the philosophy is. Let me get back to presentation side.
Hi, my name is Walter.
Okay. All right. share again. So, so the Leader in Me covers these 3 vital areas, as the principal said in the video: the leadership, culture, and academics. And these 3 areas are each designed to help students become interdependent or self-reliant, and independent or self-reliant in life. Also, to become interdependent, meaning to get along with others through learning effective interpersonal skills, and also to make meaningful contributions in their homes, schools, and society. These are the main purposes of Leader in Me. There's a lot of language that's kind of specific to Leader in Me, and one of them is this paradigm. So a paradigm is the way we see the world, and in Leader in Me, they talk a lot about the paradigms. There are many paradigms in life. However, the 5 paradigms that are core, there are 5 paradigms that are core to the success of Leader in Me. So I'll briefly go over those. The first core paradigm is everyone can be a leader. And you saw that in the video where the kids and the teachers were talking about how everyone has leadership potential and everyone can be a leader in some way. At some schools, only a handful of students and teachers are seen as being leaders and given opportunities to lead. In other words, leadership is for the few. But as you saw in the video, at Leader in Me schools, everyone is given a chance to fulfill a leadership role in the school or classroom. They may be a leader of public speaking, a leader of science, a leader of music, or some other type of leader, or they may be given a chance to develop new leadership skills. The second core paradigm is that everyone has genius. At Leader in Me schools, every student and every adult is believed to have something that they can contribute to the benefit of the school. Maybe it's a talent or a personality trait, such as being happy, or maybe it's a specific academic strength that can be used for the good of the class or the school. One of the goals of Leader in Me is to find and develop that genius in each individual. The third core paradigm is change starts with me. Rather than point blame at the school system or wait for someone at the district or county to change things magically, Leader in Me works from the inside out. That means that we work to improve ourselves first before trying to blame or improve others. The fourth core paradigm is to empower students to lead their own learning. Rather than all the responsibility being placed on teachers to direct and control all the lessons and the learning, students are expected to be responsible for their own learning. In some cases, students will even learn best by leading some of the lessons. And this is what really grows. So the goal is 80% student-led and 20% adult-led. That comes kind of like later on in the continuum of Leader in Me school years. The fifth paradigm is educators and parents partner to develop the whole child. There are actually 2 parts of this paradigm. Parents and educators work together. They are partners in educating students. Some parents think it is solely the teacher's responsibility to educate, but research is clear that when parents and teachers work together, students progress at a faster, deeper rate. The second part, the focus at Leader in Me schools, is not solely on academic achievement. The focus is on developing the whole child, body, mind, heart, and spirit. So there you have a brief overview of the 5 paradigms of Leader in Me. You can, of course, look into this more in depth. This is just an overview. The next part is introducing the 7 habits of highly effective people. Looking at the 7 habits, you see that the first 3 habits make up the private victory. Again, a lot of this Leader in Me lingo. So this is called the private victory. These habits help people move from a state of dependence to independence. Here, the focus is on personal effectiveness. The second set of habits, habits 4 through 6, make up the public victory, which enables a person to move from a state of being independent to interdependence. Here, the focus is on interpersonal effectiveness. Habit 7 surrounds and sustains all the other habits. And I think I should have stopped earlier. Mr. Gupta, Raj, anything in the chat?
No, nothing right now.
Good, thank you, Raj. I should have stopped quite a few slides earlier. Please put things in the chat if you have questions that come up. All right, moving along. So now we're going to watch a video that introduces the 7 habits. I have to again stop share, go to the video side because this one does not have sound for some reason in this link. This one's really cute for the kids.
Be proactive, don't be reactive. Make choices and think through the consequences. Being proactive means taking initiative, which means doing what you know is right.
It means that you're being caring and considering others and taking responsibility of yourself.
Be proactive every day. Be proactive, stop and think.
I do my homework first before my mother tells me to do my homework. You don't yell and you don't get all mad. Well, it means to choose your own weather or carry your own weather, like how you're going to act that day. Oh, I'm going to be moody all day, or I'm going to be happy. I choose to be happy.
Begin with the end in mind. Know what you want and how you are going to achieve it.
Begin with the end in mind means that you should plan what you're going to do before you do it.
Like if you were to say something to someone, begin with the end in mind. Think how they would feel before you said it.
Begin with the end in mind means that you plan ahead.
Setting targets is habit too. Setting targets is good for you. It means to like set goals and work towards them.
Have first things first. Prioritize what you need to accomplish. Work before you play.
When I get home immediately, I do my homework and then I can play all the fun things that I want.
So if you had a big project to do, you need to get it done and you don't need to dilly-dally.
If I want to play video games, but I have 2 pages of math homework, well, then putting first things first, if I was using that, I would do my math homework first.
Do the big important things first and the small, a little important things after.
Say you put your sock on before your shoe. That would be okay, but if you put your shoe on first and then your sock on, your shoe would have a sock over it.
Think win-win. We can both get what we want. Neither of us has to lose.
It means that you're thinking of others too, instead of just this person wins or just this person wins. It's like everybody can win. Everybody has a part.
To share things and let other people play.
You and your partner try to make both sides win.
How can we both be happy?
I see kids all the time having arguments at school, and they usually solve it by the think win-win habit.
People don't think, oh, I'm such a loser, I'm not good at this, and people don't say, oh, I'm gonna beat them. People say, oh, we're all great, we're all in this together, we're gonna do fine.
Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Listen with your head and heart before you speak. If the other person is like talking, you first you listen, then after he finishes talking, then you can share your ideas.
Sometimes you want to say something to somebody else, like really making it seem like theirs is wrong, or that your opinion is better, or that you don't think that what they're saying is right or something. It's just really hard sometimes, but you have to be a leader and really hold that back and listen to them and understand them, and then you can tell them.
I use it to listen to my mom whenever she tells me to do things, and I always have to listen so I know what to do. We're at a soccer game, me and my mom, and there's a mosquito on her back, and I slapped her back. And she's like, what'd you do that for? I'm like, there's a mosquito on your back. She's like, I won't fall for that trick. And then I pulled the mosquito off, and I'm like, mosquito? She's like, okay. And then I thought to myself, she needed to understand why I slapped her on the back before she made her assumption.
Synergize. Together we can always accomplish more.
It means that everyone works together and they get great ideas to help get things finished, like your work, and you have better ideas and you'll get it done a lot faster. Work together for best results.
The reason I like Synergize is because
It's all working together, and you can make so many new friends by doing it, and you can just work so hard together. I like to work in groups, and if there's a problem, I can help my friends. When you're playing tag, it's no fun just playing tag with one person by yourself, because tag you're on yourself isn't fun. Sharpen the saw. Live a balanced life. Habit 7 is all about keeping your personal skills sharp so that you can better deal with life. It means after you've done all the habits, you take time to do something that you really like to do. Sharpen the saw is my favorite habit because you get to give your brain a rest. It means like when you're tired, you just came back from a hard work a day, then you can just have fun, relax. My favorite way to sharpen the saw is reading. My favorite thing to do is cheer. Running and exercising. My favorite way to sharpen the saw is to play games with my family. My favorite thing to do is eat birthday cake. We love the 7 habits.
Awesome. So as I get back to the presentation, just being familiar with the 7 habits is hugely helpful in terms of family participation, because this is what the kids are really learning at the beginning, is how, as you see, they start to use the language in their everyday. And if you can know the language, speak the language of the 7 habits at home and really start to reinforce them at home, again, it's just really powerful. I wanted to ask Jody, you put in the chat that was your favorite quote. Which one was it?
The one about you don't put your shoes on first and then put your socks on.
Yes, that was really
That's my favorite one.
Thank you, Jody. Okay, so yeah, just really cute when the kids are really, they've really digested this and they're really living it, which is hopefully the direction we're going to go in with our cheetahs soon. So the 7 habits are for all ages. In fact, all of the adult staff has gone through the 7 habits and had a great experience. So what that means is, we started with ourselves in having this training over the summer, all staff, to really learn about the paradigms and the habits so that we can sort of live it and then, embody it and then hopefully be part of it with the kids at the school. The habits are for all ages and have been made simple for very young students, as shown by the characters from the 7 habits of happy kids. Dr. Covey said the 7 habits are at their best when they have a problem to solve. So we'll go over the 7 habits briefly. Habit 1 is be proactive. It's the key to all the other habits. To be proactive means to take responsibility for your life instead of being reactive and merely taking life as it comes. Proactive people take initiative to make life happen the way they want it to. Let's look at some of the characteristics and behaviors of proactive people. They take initiative to act on life. They do not make excuses or blame others for their mistakes. They pause, think, and choose proactive responses, and they focus on what they can control, not what they cannot control. Some things in life may concern us, but we have no control over them. Reactive people waste time trying to change other people or blame problems on things over which they have no control, things in their circle of concern. Proactive people focus on things they can influence, mostly themselves. As they do, their circle of influence expands. Though we cannot control everything that happens to us in life, the one thing we can control is ourselves. And the kids are learning these lessons, so hopefully they're starting to use this vocabulary and really use this in their day-to-day and at home, hopefully. Habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. People who begin with the end in mind plan ahead and set goals, are clear about what matters most to them, have purpose and meaning in their life, live by a personal mission statement, begin projects with clear objectives. With Leader and Me, each student is given a chance to write a personal mission statement, and each class is given a chance to write a class mission statement. It gives them purpose and direction. So one way that the families can be involved is a family could write a clear purpose and direction, have a mission statement for your family. That would be really cool to work on together. So that's one suggestion for how to bring it home. Habit 3 is put first things first. Habit 1 says, I'm in charge of me. Habit 2 says, I have clear priorities, purposes, and plans for my life. And habit 3 says, I have the discipline to carry out my priorities, purposes, and plans. A favorite video that explains the essence of habit 3 is called Big Rocks. I love this video. You may recall the young boy in the video referring to big rocks in the previous video. Big rocks are the most important things in our lives, including our most important relationships. Let's listen to what Manny and Clark say about why putting big rocks first in our lives is so important. And this Manny and Clark, there's a lot of videos and they're really fun. The kids really like this series. So let me go ahead. And while I'm going to this, Raj, let me do another check-in. Anything in the chat?
No, nothing yet. All good.
Thank you very much. Okay, here we go. This one's really cute.
Hey, what do we got here?
This is part 2 of First Things First, a grand experiment.
Hey, jelly bean!
Nah, this is your life. This bowl is your life. This is 1 week of your life, and your job is to get all the important things of your life to fit in with all of the day-to-day activities.
Go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so there's everything I do in a week, right?
Yeah,
all
right
the stuff.
there.
Okay. Family, right? That's important.
Super important. And you can't go over the edge.
Okay, so I gotta make it fit without going over?
Right there.
Okay, well, big career opportunity. I would,
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Worked very hard at that. Coaching, right? I need coaching. That's a small one.
I respect that about you.
Yeah, for sure. Put this in there.
Okay.
All right. Well, I love basketball.
Okay.
I like to play. That's not in there. And this is me time. I need me time.
Well, you gotta rest, and you like watching rap battles, and okay.
What is
So whatever doesn't fit underneath the brim, you gotta take out. Like you just can't have.
So basketball and me time is not in there.
Yeah. So that's like what, half of your life?
Yeah. I need these in there.
I know. Well then you're gonna need to do something differently.
What do you mean?
You're just gonna need to rearrange it. You're gonna have to shift your priorities, right?
Hey, Clark.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's take the big things out. Okay. Remember, what's this episode called again?
First things first.
Right. Okay. So what are you going to do differently?
Okay, I'm gonna put the big things in first.
Yeah.
Okay. Family in there.
Yep.
Pick up ball, that's what I was, me time, that's what I was missing.
Yep.
Okay.
And now here's all the little things.
Yep.
Here's the rest of your daily activities. Can you make them fit? Shake it up a bit. Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice. Oh, I think we're getting that. All right. And we're over the brim.
Yeah, it's still over.
Yeah, so check this out.
What about all these? This is me brushing my teeth and showering and getting a haircut and then checking blogs and vlogs.
Yeah, but those things are all in here. You have your hygiene and you have your Snapchat and you have all those things in here. It's just they're not taking up the whole space anymore. You're not responding to every text immediately. Right? It's just at the end of the week, what are you going to regret not having?
Big rocks.
Right. You don't want to sacrifice your family for your Snapchat.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just prioritizing the big things instead of the little things.
Exactly.
That I'm already doing, but just not in an abundance.
So what are the big things in your life?
Yeah. And which ones do you want in your book?
Prioritize. First things first.
First things first.
So those are fun videos and the kids like them because they really can relate to the characters. Okay, get back to our presentation. Okay, so it's been said that the enemy of the best is the good. When we allow little rocks to take over our lives, we give up the most important parts of our lives. Habit 4 is think win-win. This is not the habit where I win and you lose, or where you win and I lose, or the habit where we both lose. It is the habit where everyone can win. Some people want to win no matter what, so they always go for win-lose. They win and the other person loses. Win-win takes a lot of courage. Going for win-win means balancing courage and consideration. Highly effective people go for win-win, which requires both courage and consideration. They would rather go for no deal than to take advantage of someone they care about by going for win-lose. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. It is the habit that talks about how to listen, which requires diagnosing before we prescribe. When emotions are high between two people, it is important that we listen not only with our ears, but also with our eyes, looking for body language, and our heart, listening for feelings. For a doctor to prescribe medication before diagnosing the problem would be malpractice. When we try to prescribe a solution when we have not diagnosed what the problem is, we are committing malpractice with those we love and care about. Habit 6 is synergize. Synergizing leads to synergy, where two or more people work together to get results better than either one of them could have come up with working alone. The key to getting to synergy is to celebrate people's differences. Some people discriminate against people because of their differences. Some people tolerate people's differences. Other people value each other's differences. Highly effective people not only value and utilize people's differences, they find ways to celebrate those differences. One way to move toward synergy is to focus on each family member's strengths, not their weaknesses. Habit 7 is to sharpen the saw. And as you saw in the video, this is the fun one that people really like. It's to renew yourself in 4 different areas: body, mind, heart, and spirit. So the story is, this would be taught to the kids as well. Are you ever too busy to sharpen the saw? A man was sawing a dead tree and making very little progress. A passerby noticed the saw blade was dull and asked, "Why don't you stop to sharpen your saw?" The man replied he was too busy sawing. He didn't have time to stop and sharpen his saw. The point, of course, is that he would have been more productive and gotten done faster if he paused to sharpen his saw. Is anyone in here, I'm sure, can answer yes, ever too busy, or can answer no to this, ever too busy driving to stop and get gas for your near empty car? I'm assuming that would be a no, because we don't want to push cars. So thinking about the importance of sharpening the saw for adults as well. Dr. Covey refers to 4 basic human needs as 4 saws: to live, to love, to learn, and to leave a legacy. So that's a very brief summary of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Remember that the first 3 habits focus on personal effectiveness, the private victory, while the second 3 habits focus on interpersonal effectiveness. The sequence is important because the private victory precedes the public victory, and each habit builds on the next. One of the questions you may have is, how can families partner with the school to make Leader and Me a success at our school? Here are a few examples. So as we discussed at the beginning, if you just can get familiar with the 7 habits and model them and use the language and really point them out and celebrate them when you see them happening in your home, using the language, empowering children also to be leaders at home, that everyone has that genius, everyone has that leadership capability, discussing the 7 habits as a family, inviting children to teach the 7 habits, participate in family events at school, volunteer, make it fun. Also that idea of writing a family mission statement, having leadership jobs at home where kids have leadership roles, and asking to see the leadership guide your child is working on at school, or talking to them about the lessons. Every morning they have lessons from 9 to 9:30. in either Leader in Me or mindfulness or some kind of social emotional learning. So finding out about it and having them teach you about it would be great. If you are more interested in the 7 habits, there are lots of books out there that you can look into. So that concludes sort of the overview. I hope that this was informational. I hope that you're excited about this program like we are. And as I said, we're going to build it. We have not built it yet. We are coming through. It's our first year. We do have a leadership team, that is sort of facilitating Leader in Me at the school. We also have a trainer from Leader in Me who we meet with, so we can ask questions about how to do better and what other schools are doing who have had the program for years, and other resources. There's a plethora of resources. So hopefully if you are here for more than this, if you're here for 5th grade, you're going to see what we can do in a year. And if you're here for more than 1 year, 2 years, hopefully 3 years, some of you, you'll hopefully get to see it grow into a really great Leader in Me school. So I will stop sharing there. I appreciate again your time and your participation. I would love to hear if you have any questions or thoughts, or if you like it, if it sounds good, if you've heard anything from your kids about it. Would love to hear any feedback. Right back at you.
I will start off with a question. I think it sounds great. I honestly haven't heard my kids say much about it. So just one question about how is it, the habits sound great. How are they really put into practice in the classroom or throughout the school day?
Yeah, so I'll give great question, Emily. I'll give 2 concrete examples. One is the classrooms are having these leadership roles, for example, to make sure that there's a lot of opportunity in the class for kids to have, traditional kind of jobs, but really coming up with creative ways so that everyone in the class can have some kind of job that really shows their genius and their skills, because that's very empowering and it makes them so proud. And then another example, I'm going to give a shout out to Jody and Raj, who have already thought about, when we have whole school events, for example, how really to get the kids involved. So it's not just a lot of adult work, that the kids are really involved in the messaging, in the programming. So I don't know if Jody wants to speak any more about it. We're having a town hall, for example, coming up, and, Jody's already, her wheels are turning about how to get the kids more involved in this. And that kind of thing is really going to grow, I think, as we have Leader in Me more at the school. I don't know, Jody, if you wanted to add to that.
Sure. The whole purpose of this is to have, 80% student involvement, 20% adult involvement. And so, for example, we revised our school vision and mission over the summer, and then we shared it with the students. And they gave us feedback, and then they've actually begun to write their own vision and mission statements within the classroom based on ours, and then their own personal goals within the classrooms as well. So that's one of them. Again, the town hall meetings, usually I've done them, or I've had other people in the adults, but we're going to be having students come in, and with the themes or the purpose of them, we want them to speak their truths and their stories, etc., and help us. What do you think we need to do? The SGA is going to be running many of them, and so our ambassadors have changed based on the Leader in Me. Usually they were just greeters and things like that, and so Megan and Brent have met together and met with a group of students that wanted to change the purpose. And so they've done that as well. So those are some examples.
And that it's impressive because, for example, when we met with our coach from Leader in Me and we started saying, this is what we've already done. And she said, Loren, you've only had this for a month. I said, are we on the right track? And she said, you are at a point where a lot of schools end their first year, so like you guys are doing great, because we want to do it all on the first day, and we kind of have to, really develop this. So I think she thinks we're off to a great start, and I would have to agree. Great question, Emily. Thank you, Jody, for the feedback.
You're welcome.
I know that game is coming up, that big baseball game, and maybe, this was just a learning. And so there don't have to be questions, no pressure, but I just want to thank
So I don't want to dominate with questions, but I have one more. I did wanted to make sure that, we're now in our third school year that's impacted by COVID. I don't know, we could have a whole nother session on it, but if you are seeing social emotional issues with kids continue with the pandemic, or have people been, I think, a lot of kids have been really resilient. So that's one part of the question. And also, are the 7 habits of the leader in me, are these some ways that we can continue to address social and emotional issues related to the pandemic?
Yeah, great question. So I would say both. What you said at the beginning, how are we seeing kids who are really affected? Absolutely. And are we seeing kids show their resilience? Absolutely. We're seeing both, and some in the same kids. We came to start this school year with Leader in Me and with this strong social emotional curriculum and with a specific time in the day to really address it, because we knew kids would be coming with a lot of needs. And not to start the school year rushing into academics either, to really welcome them back, embrace them, help them sort of get more comfortable with being in a room full of a bunch of other kids, the noises and the movement and all of that, just to acclimate them back into, non-virtual, real in-person learning. So really having that in mind, absolutely. So the timing has been perfect in having this, because the kids are having these lessons, not graded, not academic, not testing them on anything, just really having discussions about circles of control and what's your weather, and all these things are really giving them opportunities to talk about their feelings and talk about where they're at, what they're struggling with, and what they need, and what their strengths are, and all of that. So
and again, just to add to that, we haven't changed our mindfulness. One of the things that we really talked about before we accepted the pilot was we didn't want to change who we were systemically with mindfulness and with the brain breaks and things like that. But also, we also look at third graders really enjoy the booklet that comes with it. But on the other hand, with fifth graders, they like the interactiveness with each other and the conversations and what the simulations are. So you can see the difference as they're growing older, how they handle the Leader in Me and the circle time with the talking and thinking about, well, if I was in this situation. One of the things that I have seen them start to use, because they haven't been through all the 7 habits yet, is that they're actually using the language. And that's what's really nice when we're talking to them about a situation or asking them their ideas. We're just starting, but you're starting to hear, well, I'd like to be proactive in this. So do you mind if I, and I'm like, oh, wow, never heard a third grader use that word before. Or, I had a child about 2 weeks ago said, well, Miss Smith, I think this might be a win-win situation, and I went, well, maybe you're right. This could be, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this, but we'll find out. So, they're just starting to use language, not everybody, but some of them. So again, we have a long way to go, but we just started the lessons. We did the initiation of it, but yeah, I think that it's really taking off with a lot of kids. But, others, I think it's a way to kind of get back in and say, hey, I belong, I'm here. And this is a time, 30 minutes at the beginning of the day, that I don't have to worry about, do I have my notebook? Have I sharpened my pencil? All that kind of stuff at the first moment I walk in the door.
absolutely. Thank you, Jody.
Great. Thanks so much to you, Ms. Moreland, and to everyone. I'll give one last opportunity for any other questions or comments before we adjourn.
I just want to add thank you to the PTA. Thank you for all your support for the staff. And thank you also for sending us your amazing kids every day. They are just, the building was so lonely without them. So we're so glad to have them. You have amazing kids. So thank you for entrusting them to us.
Great. We're happy they're back. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. We're going to adjourn the meeting and we're looking forward to having a great rest of the school year.
And remember, no bike to school tomorrow. It's on Thursday.
Yes. Thank you.
All right,
you,
see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.